Prove your loyalty. That's what my sister Alina said. Her voice was sharp, her tone colder than the hospital floor under my feet. Hi everyone, my name is Leona Marquez and I gave up a kidney for my mother, not out of obligation, not even love. But because I was told if I didn't, I wasn't part of the family. For years I've been the lesser daughter. Alina was the golden one, straight A's, real estate empire, diamond-studded lifestyle. I ran a modest flower shop and took care of our mom when she had early signs of kidney failure. So when Alina barged into my apartment last month with that fake concern and said, "Do this for mom, or you'll regret it," I said yes. Not because I trusted her, but because I needed to know how far they'd go. The surgery happened. I woke up sore, stitched, alone. No flowers. No calls. Just a nurse changing my four. Then 2 days later Alina walked in. Not alone. Behind her was a smug woman in a red dress. And being wheeled beside them was our mother. Breathing. Smiling. Healthy. Then Alina threw the envelope onto my bed. Here. Property division papers. Sign it. But they didn't know something about that kidney. Alina sat in the hospital chair, legs crossed, sunglasses still on indoors, like this was just another boardroom she owned. "This simplifies everything," she said. "We're moving mom in with me. I'll handle the estate and you can get back to your little shop." My hand trembled as I picked up the envelope. Inside, a cold legal breakdown. Our childhood home, hers. The land in Santa Fe, hers. Even the antique piano my grandmother left me? Gone. I looked at my mother. She just smiled faintly, eyes avoiding mine. "Is this what loyalty gets me?" I asked softly. Alina smirked. "Loyalty gets you peace. No more expectations." She didn't know what I had done. I donated my kidney, but not to her. Not to mom. They'd scheduled her transplant for March. Mine was removed 3 weeks ago, for a completely different recipient. A child in Arizona. I'd forged her name to the paperwork just enough to fool the family, not the doctors. The real transplant never happened. Mom's healthy? Good. But not from me. And the real paperwork was in my lawyer's hands. Because Alina had just tried to force a fraudulent property transfer using a medical lie. And I had the proof. I smiled gently. "I'll sign this tomorrow? Because tonight the trap closes." That night I sat at my kitchen table, the documents spread before me like broken glass. My lawyer had sent a notarized affidavit, medical confirmation, and the signed statement from the transplant registry. Everything in airtight order. It wasn't about revenge. Not exactly. It was about making sure they could never do this to anyone else. The next morning I showed up at the notary's office, the same place Alina had scheduled the signing, 15 minutes early. She was already there in a red dress that screamed power. Mom sat beside her, looking exhausted. "Let's make this quick," Alina said, not even looking up. I laid my folder down without a word. The notary opened it and frowned. "This isn't the same transfer file." Alina's eyes shot up. I met them calm. "That's the legal record of what really happened, including the forged signatures your assistant submitted, while I was under general anesthesia." Her voice caught. "You're bluffing." "Then why," I said softly, "did the DA call me this morning?" Mom looked up sharply. "The DA? You lied to the family. You used my supposed surgery to manipulate a transfer. That's financial fraud, Mom. And coercion, Alina." The notary stood. "We'll need to pause this meeting." But I wasn't done, because I had one more surprise waiting outside. I stepped outside the notary's office, letting the door swing shut behind me. Waiting at the curb was Elena, the nurse who had been on duty the night of my surgery. She looked nervous but determined. Alina's voice rose behind me. "Who is that?" I turned to face them. "That's the person who witnessed the surgical swap you orchestrated." Mom's expression broke first, her face pale, her lips trembling. "You think this is a game?" I asked. "You drugged me, got me on a table, and never planned for a transplant. Just the paperwork. You needed the illusion of sacrifice so you could take the apartment. You used my kidney as a decoy." Elena stepped forward and handed a signed statement to the notary. "That's my written testimony." I saw her hand the surgeon a bribe. There was no transplant that night. Elena's voice cracked. "You're bluffing. No one will believe you." "They already do," I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. "Check the news tonight. Prosecutors are already reviewing the case. And by the way," I stepped closer, my voice low, "you should have read the hospital record more carefully. I never donated my kidney." I watched realization dawn in her eyes. But I wasn't finished. Because the documents Mom signed weren't what she thought they were. Mom slammed her hand on the table. You're lying. I pulled out a crisp document from my coat pocket and slid it toward her. You really think I'd sign away a kidney without reading the papers? She blinked at the header, Property Reclamation and Medical Consent Nullification. Alina grabbed the document and flipped through it, panic rising in her throat. I had my lawyer draft a decoy surgical consent. The real one voided any property transfer made under coercion. And guess what? The medical board already ruled your donation request unethical. They were both silent now. But you didn't stop there, I continued. You brought in a fake transplant witness, drugged me and tried to rob me blind. I turned toward the doorway, signaling. The door opened and a man in a charcoal suit stepped in, my attorney. He nodded. They've officially violated 3 state laws. Charges are being filed today. Mom looked like she was going to faint. Alina's jaw clenched, but her confidence had finally cracked. Oh, and one more thing, I said softly, stepping close enough for only them to hear. That woman you brought in with you, the one in red? Alina stiffened. She told me everything. Because she wasn't your lawyer. She was mine. Alina turned ghost pale. You're lying. Am I? I smiled and reached into my inner pocket again, this time pulling out a photo. It showed the woman in the red dress shaking hands with my lawyer, in his office. She met with me 2 weeks ago. Said she was tired of watching you two play people like pawns. She handed over voice recordings, signed witness statements, and a full timeline of how you pressured Mom to manipulate me. Alina lunged forward, snatching for the photo. My attorney blocked her. I warned you, he said coolly, we're well past negotiation. The sheriff will be here in 10. Mom collapsed into the chair behind her, face buried in her hands. You betrayed your own mother for money? No, I said, leveling my voice. You betrayed your son for money. And now it's just come full circle. Alina's mask slipped entirely. You think you've won? I leaned in, slow and unshaken. This wasn't about winning. It was about surviving. But since you're curious. I opened the drawer behind me and slid out a second folder, labeled Probate Court Filing, Inheritance Reversal. Alina's hands trembled as she opened it. Then she gasped. Her eyes locked on me. You're taking back everything? I nodded. And Mom? I glanced toward her. She already signed. Alina's voice was barely a whisper now. You forged it? I didn't flinch. It's notarized, witnessed, recorded. You signed away Mom's rights when you tried to disinherit me in favor of her caretaker, who just so happened to be your business partner. The woman in the red dress sat silently behind Alina now, smirking. She crossed her legs and glanced toward the front door. Right on cue, the sheriff walked in. 2 officers flanked him. Alina stood up, trembling. You're arresting me? No, I said calmly. They're here to deliver a court injunction. You can't sell any of Mom's properties, touch her bank accounts, or leave the state. Mom looked up at me, eyes wide and wet. I didn't know, son. I didn't know what she was doing. I knelt beside her, voice steady. Maybe not at first. But when you threw those papers at me in the hospital, you knew. She didn't argue. Alina bolted for the door. The sheriff stopped her with a gentle but firm arm. Ma'am, you'll need to stay. My attorney handed the officers a folder. Here's the list of fraudulent transfers and coercion claims. Alina's face drained of color. The sheriff looked at her and said, Ma'am, you may want to sit down. Because this is just the beginning. And behind him, someone else stepped through the door. It was our uncle. The one Alina told everyone had passed away in Spain. He stepped into the room with a slow, deliberate calm, face aged but sharp, holding a cane in one hand and a thick brown envelope in the other. Hello, Alina, he said. Surprised to see me? Alina gasped. You're supposed to be dead? He finished for her. No. You sent those fake condolences so you could claim your share of my inheritance early. I've been watching. Quietly. He handed the envelope to the sheriff. Inside, you'll find a notarized affidavit, financial statements, and a full copy of her conversations with my accountant. She used my illness to funnel assets through offshore accounts under Mom's name. The red dress woman was already backing away toward the door, but my assistant stepped in, blocking her path. She was done too. Alina collapsed onto the couch, sobbing. I didn't mean for it to go this far. I looked at her, my sister, my betrayer, and said quietly, you chose this. And now you'll live it. Mom reached for my hand, her eyes clearer now. You were always the one who loved without demanding. I see that now. I didn't reply. Justice didn't need a speech. It just needed to land.